gospel reading, with all its flesh feasting and blood gulping, may be the key to a new evangelism campaign for Christendom. Let's be honest. What's more popular these days than flesh-eating zombies and blood-sucking vampires? Right? Not much is more popular than that. So maybe John's gospel feast of flesh and blood is the key to church growth. Or maybe not. It's just too weird, isn't it? It's weird, and don't be ashamed if you think so. Don't sit there and think, I'm not supposed to think it's weird. No, you're fine. We're not the only ones who think it's weird. Check out verse 60. We didn't read that far in the gospel passage, but just 2 verses beyond what we read for today. It says this: when many of his disciples heard it, they said, "This teaching is difficult. Who can accept it?" See, it's weird. Even the disciples thought so. But Jesus doesn't back down. He doesn't back off when he hears the disciples balk. Nope, he just hammers the point home. So how will we respond? That's what we're exploring today. So as we prepare for the word preached, would you join with me, your hearts and minds, in prayer? Oh God, may the words of my mouth and the meditations of each of our hearts be found acceptable in your sight. For you are our rock and our Redeemer. Amen. John's Gospel opens, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God." And then just a few lines later, the Word became flesh and lived among us. John's Gospel reminds us over and over again of the impact of the incarnation. God came and walked among us. Emmanuel is God with us, God made flesh in Jesus Christ. John also spends much time talking about how Jesus is in the Father, just as the Father is in me. Here, Jesus extends the incarnation to include us. Jesus will be in us, abide in us, in the eating of the flesh and blood. Feasting on the body. That's body with a big B, not a little b. Feasting on the body brings the incarnation to abide, to dwell in us. When we eat this little hunk of bread and take a little sip of that juice or wine, it's the whole of Jesus' life and ministry, birth and death and resurrection, and life everlasting lived out in us, upon which we feast. It's the whole of Jesus' life and ministry, birth and death and resurrection, and life everlasting lived out in us that feeds us and will sustain us. No line can be drawn between what Jesus says and what he does, between his identity and mission in the world. Jesus' words and works, his life and death,